We're going to be talking about the healing properties of the sun. I'll probably go to 3 main points and how the sun has been very, very vilified. And it's not just someone with high melanin pigment that should be loving the sun, but it's for everyone, but there's a safe way to do it. I will talk about 3 points of the sun and how it is one of the most healing exposures we can have. So it is very much linked to when you study zones of disease along the equator, there is far fewer cases of autoimmune conditions. So one in particular that I studied, I had an affinity, I treat a lot of autoimmune conditions and I really enjoy it because it's a lot of sorting, it's a deep process, and there can be so much done to treat autoimmune. So by autoimmune, I mean like celiac, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, even asthma is considered, eczema is all considered autoimmune. Like something as like MS, lupus, all that. Yes, so I really do love treating autoimmune. It's one of my greatest kind of successes that I feel. However, one particular study that I was looking at, or several studies I was looking at, but I was looking at for MS, I had an affinity to really dive deep into MS. I'm not sure why, but I had several patients all at once when I first started who had MS, and so Mike is watching, welcome, but the incidence of autoimmune along the equator is far, far fewer, and the status of it increasing, the stats of it increases as we get further and further away from the equator. So when I had checked this many years ago, there is a higher level of MS, multiple sclerosis, in BC. And we are in the Northwest. It is darker here. There's a lot of darkness much of the year, and the months that we do have sun, it's incredible. But there is a correlation to the sun being healing and regulating the immune system. And the further we get away from it, the more higher the stats of autoimmune. So it's very, very interesting. So we are taught the opposite of late, and it couldn't be clearer to me, but studies obviously can be skewed and very confusing, and people only want to do the best for themselves, but the sun is one of the most healing exposures of nature that we have. So the sun rays on our skin is very, very healing, and when the sun hits our skin naturally underneath its layer is how we release vitamin D. So when the sun ultraviolet rays hit our skin, we naturally release vitamin D, which is a hormone. So releasing vitamin D has a whole orchestrated symphony effect on our immune system. Vitamin D, I can't even go through everything that it does, but it's immune boosting. It builds our bones. It's for neurologically, it helps keep our nerves healthy. It's good for the liver. It's good for it's cancer prevention. It keeps the immune system really regulated high. We need vitamin D. The immune system is really dependent on vitamin D exposure. Now, we are taught to cover ourselves up with sunscreen. Lather on this sunscreen with high SPF, and a lot of these sunscreens have a lot of toxic ingredients in them. So when you do choose them, and I'm not saying not to choose them, I'm saying choose them still, but you have to be very careful. There's a lot of toxic ingredients in the sunscreen, which you're lathering on your skin. And then as you head out into the day, there's these toxic chemicals that you're absorbing. So mind you, we absorb more from our skin than we do from our digestive system. So we're absorbing all of these toxins through the skin, and because of this coating on the skin and the higher the SPF blockage, we're blocking the sun. These sunscreens are often toxic to natural landmarks. I went to Tulum in Mexico, and there's these underwater watering pools called cenotes, and they are sacred, and they were used in ancient ceremonies and things like that, and you can pay to go to cenotes. Some are very, very popular, some are lower and more hidden and kind of more like out of the way. But each one of them, it says not to wear sunscreen. And if you are wearing sunscreen, make sure it's a natural mineral sunscreen, because it is disruptive to the natural ecology of the cenote. It's disruptive to the limestone in the cenote. It's disruptive to the water. And if you're in the oceans and surfing, and it kills coral reef. And coral reef is alive, and we need it for our oceans, and sunscreen is extremely toxic to coral reef. So we think we're doing one thing that's protective for us, so using this sunscreen, just not even thinking of it, and the trickle effect of it on our environment is horrific. So as we're wearing the sunscreen and we go out into the world, now this layer with this high SPF is blocking the UV rays from hitting the skin, and we are chronically vitamin D deficient. So that leaves us more susceptible to viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites, our immune system being a bit more compromised. Immune system issues. It affects bone density. Sun is protective. Studies show that it's protective for some sorts of cancer too. So using sunscreen is blocking vitamin D, and then now what do these companies do? They know that you can't make money off the sun, but you can vilify the sun, make money off of the sunscreen, and then you can also sell the vitamin D in a supplement form, which you can make money off of. So vitamin D supplementation is through the roof. It is rampant. Everyone really knows about it. It's given even to babies when they're born, a really, really small drop. And so we're trying to avoid the sun, avoid vitamin D exposure, cover up completely from any risk of the ultraviolet rays hitting our skin, and then take the supplement, because that's one of the healing effects of the sun. And so that's totally stripping down and extracting one thing which we think is good, and then supplementing it and thinking it has the same effect. Vitamin D supplementation sometimes is necessary, but it in no way, shape, or form has the same effect as the sun hitting our skin. So that is a big problem, because the sun is free and is extremely healthy for us. And one of my business coaches lives in Costa Rica, and I believe he posted on Facebook the healing benefit of the sun against viruses, and it was taken down from Facebook. And this is just really like a month ago or something like that. So, he's not saying that to not be medically aware and sound by posting this article. He didn't even write the article, he's reposting it. He's obviously, the articles, I didn't read it, but it's obviously to say due diligence, but the sun has antiviral properties, antibacterial properties. So this is something that can't be monetized. However, when you cover up with sunscreen and then need to supplement, I don't care if it's natural. Most people think that, and I've done a talk on supplementation and the magic bullet cure on one of my Facebook lives. You can check that out, and I'll explain for 20-40 minutes why I do not believe that we can take that model and just plug in a supplement and think that it's going to be increasing our health. But there's no way. And so using a vitamin D supplement is that same magic bullet model of the medical model, and then saying that we just plug one thing in and it will change our immune systems. It'll change our bone density. It'll change our resistance to bacteria or fungus or whatever it is. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everyone? So what is the alternative? I always say, so in the summer in Vancouver, we don't have a lot of summer, but go out into the sun. And so I'm seeing some thumbs up, which is great. So go out into the sun, even if you are pale, pale, pale. So I wrote an article in the Richmond Review years and years and years ago, and I got a letter to the editor about my article about the sun, which is great because, you know, it was about how people are dying from sun exposure. And I would like to see studies on that because I don't believe that to be true. But what can we do is to go out into the sun, even if you're pale, pale, pale skin, go out into the sun as much exposure as you can for maybe even 5 seconds. It just is like a hit of sun on your skin. And if that's all your really, really, really pale skin can take, then you go back inside, then apply the natural mineral sunscreen to your body, and then go out for the day. So it's really about getting the exposure, and it doesn't take long. One hit could be just from going from your house and walking to the car for a few moments, and that is a hit of vitamin D because the sun is hitting your skin that's not covered. So go out, let your skin get exposed. If it's 5 seconds, that's all you can take. Great. Go back in the house, get a natural mineral-based sunscreen. You probably have to go to a health food store for this. We actually found some at Brio last year. We can order again too if this is of interest to anyone. We can do a special order for sunscreens, and they're paraben-free, mineralized. They're very, very clean. Dr. Jeff's uncle is an anti-aging, he has an anti-aging clinic, and it was upon his recommendation, and it's a really high quality. So we can get it if anyone wants it. There's even ones that are tinted so that you can use as cover up for your face, and then there's body ones as well. So we can get them. I don't recall the name right now, but they were really good. We saw little samples of them. So you go back into the house, then put your sunscreen on, and then, or go into the shade, put your sunscreen on, and then continue on your daily activity. And then as it washes off, give yourself, you know, a little bit more exposure, and then put it back on. So if you can get up to like, you know, a minute with, even if you have the palest skin, that's incredible. That's really all you need. And then go back and put on your coverage and protection for the day. Because not everyone who has really, really, really pale skin can handle the sun, and they're well aware of it, and especially when it's been a long winter in Vancouver, and then their first exposure is kind of painful for them. So for me, I have darker skin, and I never use sunscreen at all. Even on the darkest days, or sorry, the brightest days. And I don't do it for the fact of the healing benefits of the sun. If it's extremely, extremely hot, I do have a mineralized sunscreen, and it's got zinc in it, and I'll use a little bit of that. And do I burn? No, but I never really did burn, but my skin is quite a bit darker than, you know, say the average person who's not of Indian origin. But I've also never used sunscreen for years, and it is to get that vitamin D and that healing exposure. So there is another a stat that says 20 minutes of sun exposure releases over, I think, like 200 antimicrobials, antiparasitic components, and antiviral. So your body is just able to have a healing fest without the use of anything but being in the sun. And if by being in the sun you are perhaps touching your feet on the ground, it is very, very healing because of the ion exchange, and it's called earthing. And that is extremely healing. You'll get an earthing effect if you're in the water too, a natural body of water like the ocean, which is usually why people feel so great on holidays, because they're barefoot on the ground, touching sand, touching the earth, in water, so they're earthing in water, and then there's exposure to the sun as well. So that's two things. And then the third thing is that sun exposure, especially first thing in the morning, sets our hormones. So they say that our high quality sleep is set up first thing in the morning. So it's not towards the evening, which is important for sure. It's first thing in the morning. So many cultures, if anyone is familiar with yoga, Sun Salutation is not just a series of movements. They are actually sun gazing, and it's Sun Salutation because it's setting the hormones, so gazing at the sun. So many cultures would gaze at the sun or gaze while they're in a river through the water as they're pouring it on their faces. Through the water, they're getting the rays of the sun. And that is resetting hormones. It's releasing vitamin D and it's resetting hormones. So first thing in the morning, many traditional cultures would be outside, and you have to work up to this as well. Just like being outside without sunscreen, you have to work up to this. But they'd go outside and just gaze at the sun for like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and so on and so forth, and up to however many minutes. So gazing at the sun resets the whole hormonal system. So time to go to a beach, Sheena says, yes, time to go to a beach for sure. It's so healing, especially during this time. And I think that's why much of this virus isn't in hot places. That's not true, but I think that's what they initially thought. But if you look at the stats of overall disease around the equator, it's very interesting, especially the autoimmune. It's very low along the equator. So looking at the sun or sun gazing drops the melatonin levels, because we have melatonin rise in our in our system as we sleep, but in the morning we want light to hit our eyes, so the melatonin drops. We want natural light, not the light in our houses, because that's like blue spectrum light. We want full spectrum of the sunlight to hit our eyes. The melatonin levels drop, and it sets the stage for the nighttime for it to be released. So sun gazing affects our pineal gland. It regulates the whole hormonal circadian rhythm, so the rhythm of our bodies. So waking up with sunrise, looking at the sun, and then setting your day, and then by the evening, say like 6, 7 o'clock, as the time of the sun goes down, the lights in your houses start to lower, TVs start to turn off, electrical, like smartphones and all that, starting to use less and less, and just putting them away. If you're reading from a paper book. The noise of the house, trying to just keep it lower as the evening approaches. And then as the darkness hits, melatonin can actually increase. So it will increase, and it takes about 2 hours of pure darkness. So after our eyes close, about 2 hours, it will peak again. And then it will help, and then that's protective for our immune system, our overall cancer prevention, bacteria, all of that. And that's peaking all overnight until we wake up, and then let the natural light hit our eyes again, and then that melatonin will drop. So it's a whole circadian rhythm. And a lot of people think, like my brother used to sleep at all hours in the night, and my dad would get so irritated, and he never let up about being on my brother about this, because my dad grew up very natural, waking with the sun, not that much electricity in the house, going to sleep with the sunset. It was very, very much in tune with nature. And then whereas he has this son who's like waking up at noon and sleeping at like 3 or 4, but when he counts it, it's the equivalent of like 7, 8 hours. It doesn't matter if it's the equivalent of 7, 8 hours of sleep. It is the timing, because the hormones don't really care. The hormones are still releasing when they're supposed to. And so sleeping at like 3 and waking up at noon, you're missing that whole circadian rhythm of the sun, the melatonin, and the pituitary. So it's really, really crucial to set hormones with the circadian rhythm, and the sun helps to do that. I've had the pleasure of spending, 3 or 4 trips now in Costa Rica. My business coaches were there and marketing team. And it's just like the houses are obviously well lit, like they're beautiful houses, but it gets so dark there at about 7 that there's nothing to do but go to sleep, because your body is just so tuned into that rhythm, and then you just want to sleep. You cannot stay up, and we can artificially keep ourselves up, and it just feels like, yes, we have lots of energy, but truthfully, if it was as dark as it's supposed to be without all these lights around us, we would be tired earlier. And not because we have low energy, but just because that's the nature of the rhythm of the body. And then you wake up early, and often I was close to the beach or able to just pop up onto a patio, and there's the sounds of the ocean, and then just check out the sun for the morning, and it sets your hormones. Within like 2-3 days of being there, no alarm clock necessary. My hair wouldn't fall out. Not that it falls out a lot, but there is hair loss in every time I'm in Vancouver. But within like 2-3 days, I won't even lose the natural 100 hairs a day. It's incredible. It totally just changes everything: mood, energy, serotonin release, all of it. So vitamin D is crucial, number 1, for any immune system regulation, like any of it. And that is released when the natural sun hits our natural skin without it being coated in like 50-60 proof SPF. Not saying not to use that, but if you do use it, get a high quality natural mineral one, and you can contact Brio if you want one. In the little write-up blurb, I'll include a link of the name that we are able to order from if you need it. And we'll just do it via special order because it's nothing that we keep in the clinic. But as it's getting hotter, we can order that for you. And put that on after being exposed in the sun. So for me, how I would do it, because I'm much darker skin, I would be out in the sun, and then if I was out at like a noon to 2 when it's peak sun, then I would probably put it on. But in the mornings I wouldn't put it on, and closer to the evenings I wouldn't put it on. But if I needed it, if it was like just a scorcher of a day and I was hanging out at a beach most of the day, then I would use it. But otherwise, there's SPF in my makeup for my face powder, and that's about it. I really don't use it at all, but I appreciate that someone with paler skin, you don't want to get the burn, heal cycle. You don't want to do that. You want to avoid that at all costs. So just a little bit of exposure, just be outside in a tank top and shorts. Let the sun hit your skin, full skin, for even 30 seconds if you can handle it. A minute, 2, whatever you can handle. It should just be a little bit hot, a little tiny bit starting to get pink. Pop back inside, put the sunscreen on, and you're good for the rest of the day, and you have your vitamin D exposure. Sitting in the sun for 20 minutes releases over 200 antimicrobials, antivirals, antiparasitics. That's number 2. So the effect again on the immune system. And number 3, setting our hormonal circadian rhythm. Think about traditional cultures, think about Sun Salutation. Everyone does yoga. They know the series of Sun Salutation. They may not know the history of it, but sun gazing is a big thing, and you have to know how to do it. You have to know to be careful. You don't have to directly gaze into the sun, but just being outside in the morning and being in the sun, boom, sets your circadian rhythm right off the bat. So it could be like first thing in the morning as the sun rises, then you go back inside and you do your morning routine or whatever, and your hormones are totally set. And then really edging towards trying to keep your house dark as you can, or your home dark as you can towards the evening, and then that melatonin can shoot up again. And that's set up with the sun too. So sunrise, sunset sets our whole circadian rhythm, our immune system, antiviral, antiparasitic, anti-cancer. It is incredible. So don't let anyone vilify the sun to make a sale on something that we get naturally. Melatonin is now also rampant on the markets, and that's a whole other Facebook Live that I think I have done, and I can do it again. But we create it naturally by dark rooms, darkening, closing our eyes. And so now pulling that out and turning it into a commodity that we can sell, because that makes money, and turning off lights doesn't make money. So you have to know, even if it's natural, these are businesses that make a ton of money. And so you have to know the basics of how the body works, the basic physiology of how the body works, and not just pop out one key component of this whole spectrum of healing and then turn it into something that we can sell and make money on. So yes, I do use vitamin D, sometimes only in the winter, and I'll tell patients when it's sun, from May to September, don't even touch your supplements, and then we'll revisit them for supplements for vitamin D, and then we'll revisit them in the fall as it starts to get darker. I have yet to prescribe melatonin. I will not prescribe it at all because there's so many factors affecting sleep, and we don't want to turn our lights off. So that's a whole other topic that I can get onto that tangent, but we don't want to turn our lights off and then we want to supplement for it. It doesn't make sense. It's not following the laws of the body. It's not honoring the body. Am I the best with like going to sleep at 7? No, not even close. But I try to keep my home darker, and I'm aware of the effect of lights and using technology in the evening and how stimulating it is, and all that blue light hitting back into your eyes and how it affects melatonin levels. So this is the sun. It's very healing. And as we approach summer and being outside a little bit more, it could just be your backyard. Many traditional cultures also used to wake up first thing in the morning and do earthing on dewy grass. So you walk barefoot on dewy grass, probably the sun is shining too, and it resets your entire nervous system and immune system. I used to do it a little bit when I lived at my parents' house because there was patches of grass in the back. I could feel it pounding in my thyroid, like it would activate my thyroid. It was incredible. So being outside, touching the ground, letting the sun touch your skin, be smart about it. If you're going to use sunscreen, use a natural one that is not having this horrific trickle effect onto our ecology. Killing coral reef is like killing the oceans, really. So we have to be smart about it. And yes, these companies are making a lot of money by saying that the sun is killing us with certain cancers and things like that. And I just invite you to study that and look it up. It's not actually true. That's what I wanted to talk about for the sun. Is there any questions? It can be about this or any other quick question, but don't be fooled. Just because it's a natural supplement doesn't mean that it is following the laws of nature. So when you are taking a vitamin D because we're slathered in vitamin or a sunscreen and not going outside, that is a problem. You know, when it's under that way of looking at health, that is a problem, and I think it's a big problem. So you have to know the physiology of how things affect and what it does in your body and the trickle effect of it. Yes, so does anyone have any questions? It's just a quick short live on the healing effect of the sun. If I find that book that I bought that was strictly on the healing properties of the sun, I will write it up. I hope nobody buys it because that's super nerdy, but it is a good resource. So if you want it, I will try to find it, but I will try to find that resource of the natural sunscreens too and put that into the write-up too. Any other questions before I sign off for today? Don't be scared of the sun. It is natural, it is healing. If you think logically about it, does anyone in India use sunscreen? No, you know, but there are darker skin there for sure. But you just got to think that a lot of the equator countries, they don't use sunscreen. It's not advertised like it is here. There's a lot of selling of stuff here. Any other questions? So Tammy wrote what? I can't see. What is that? Is there a question that I can answer, Tammy? Sometimes I don't see all the questions till I pop off. What about in the winter? Regarding what? Sunscreen or vitamin D? If you could clarify, I will answer. What about in the winter? If you could just, with sun exposure, yeah, that's the part that's hard in Vancouver. It's dark in like 7 months of the year. So that's when I do supplement vitamin D usually. Lights in the house in winter. If you could write a little bit more, I'm not sure of the questions. But what about winter with sun exposure? Yeah, we are dark a lot in the Northwest, which is why I mentioned there's studies that show that the further away from the equator we get, the more chances of, more linked to higher amounts of autoimmune. So it is tougher here. So that's when I would do more vitamin D. But still follow a proper sleep schedule. When you wake up in the morning, it's going to be dark and gloomy and raining. You can't do sun gazing, but you can get the best that you can in those 2-3 months that we do have sun. So do the best you can. And then the rest of the months, this is just the reality of living in Vancouver. So when we do get sun, get good sun, get exposure. Don't be negligent about it, but get good exposure to it and get your fill. Balance out your hormones even for 3 months. And then I think it really, you can set your hormones for the darker months ahead. And then in Vancouver we do get, you know, little blips of sun here and there even during the winter, but don't block the sun in the summer when we are actually getting it, if you can avoid it. If you have pale skin, do what you need to do, but if you can get good sun exposure in the summertime, load up on it because it is pretty dark here. Lights in the house, I'm not sure what the question is with that, but if you can clarify, I can clarify that. There are companies that do, this is way off topic, this is way deeper than I wanted to go into, but there are companies that do light exposure boxes, and I'm not talking about the ones that you can get at like big box chains here. I'm talking about specific low EMF, high spectrum light boxes that are extremely healing, that almost mimic the sun. You can get those that a lot of people do in the wintertime. I don't have one yet. I would love to have one, but I don't have one yet. And so you could do that in the wintertime, but not everyone can do that. So I would say just be as good as you can about sun exposure in the summertime. Like get your fix, get your fill. Tammy, if you could reframe the lights question, I can answer that. And if not, I will pop off. Or if anyone else has any other questions. Donna just popped on. Nice to see you, Donna. Any other last comments, questions about sun? What do you think about infrared? That I actually have not studied too much. Infrared saunas, are you talking about? Infrared saunas are more detoxing. So I know they do detox at a deep level. I haven't studied them too much, but infrared saunas are quite detoxing. So for that, it's good. Any other questions? Infrared saunas, yeah. Infrared saunas are quite detoxing. That's totally different than sun exposure, but they will detoxify deeply. I haven't studied it too much, but from patients that have done it, who've needed it, who have had chronic conditions, it was really helpful. Some patients who have mold exposure, things like that, infrared sauna is great. Patients who have like heavy metal toxicity, they will use, with a detox protocol, will use the infrared sauna, and it's been great. So it can assist in detoxing for sure. Yep. Any other questions before I pop off? Anything? I know the questions are a bit delayed, so. And sometimes I don't even see all of them until I pop off. But if there's any last questions, anything, let me know. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, thanks everyone. I know it's like a scary topic because nobody wants to put themselves in harm's way and nobody wants to put their kids or their parents in harm's way. But do your research, the real physiology research, not just studies which can be very easily manipulated by third-person companies which have a high profit vested interest in the study outcome, you know? To vilify the sun makes a crap ton of money, is what I'll say. So you have to look at what's behind, and it makes a lot of money, like a lot of money. So we have to always be mindful of that too. And what's the real? It's about being smart sun exposure. Even if you are the palest of pale skin, there's a way to do it, and then there's a way to pop into the house and be so safe for the rest of the day. All right, everyone, I heard it's supposed to be a very nice weekend, so be properly covered, but also don't be scared to be exposed. If you can work up to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then put your coverage on, that would be great. But if you're very pale, just want to get like pinky, like a little bit hot and pinky, and then put your coverage on with the natural sunscreen. Yeah, so Donna is excited. I'm excited. Hopefully it'll be a really great weekend for all of us. I think we need it. We've spent a lot of time indoors of late, I think most of us. So watch how your chemistry changes, the serotonin boost, the mood up levels, and hair. I didn't even touch about this, but I went to the Golden Temple when I went to a trip to India, my first time with my dad. And there's pamphlets on Sikhism, why we don't cut our hair. Well, I do, but you know, in traditionally in Sikhism, why. And I remember I didn't really read it fully, so please, if I'm saying something wrong, I apologize. But part of the pamphlet was that hair is so powerful, and it also attracts so much vitamin D, which makes the person, because of the hair and the sun and the dark hair pulls in more of the sun because it's dark, and it makes a person more powerful, more vital, more immune system is like totally resistant to any invasion of any bacteria, viruses, or whatever. So it's about strong vitality and being powerful. So vitamin D does that. In a lot of traditional cultures, if you look at them, there's not hair cutting. So the Rastas won't cut hair. I think indigenous cultures, there's not hair cutting. So that was for a purpose. It makes a person very powerful, and it's because of the vitamin D, and that's from the sun. And so we're blocking that. So what is the message? Is that we don't want powerful people because there's a lot of money to be made off of not powerful people. That's basically it. So think about that. Be smart with the sun. I also read an article where the hair, maybe I'll do a topic on this too, but the hair is like the extension of the nervous system, and as it was shaved off, it was very hard for like the instinct to be as acute as it was. It's almost like this proprioception that's from the hair, and that was totally lost once the hair was cut off. So it's very powerful. It's totally off topic again, but I watched Lenny Kravitz behind the scenes music too, and he did this whole ceremony one of the times where he cut off his dreadlocks, but the hair, and that carries so much power in that hair. So it was like a real emotional shedding, physical cellular shedding once that hair is cut off, but it carries a lot of power. Yeah, Donna, I'll do that. I never even thought about that, but let me talk about the history of hair. I don't want to be offensive, even to my own religion. That might be incorrect, but I apologize if it is, but that's what I remember reading in the pamphlet. And obviously there's so much going on in India, and it was chaotic, and I didn't bring the pamphlet with me, but one of it was talking about the vitamin D absorption and how hair helps with that. So I'll definitely talk about that for sure. I can do that. So thank you, everyone. As the clinic reopens, it might be June, second week of June-ish. So we're gonna still do our Facebook Lives, we've committed, but it might be twice a week. That's what we're just discussing. We like doing these, it's been great. We kind of got thrusted into them and wanted to be just present and be of service while this was all going on. And so we're gonna continue, but it might be about twice a week Facebook Lives and maybe 2 masterminds a month instead of 4. So just because of our schedules opening up again and just seeing patients and, you know, allotting different times. So just stay tuned for that, and we'll make that very clear too. So thank you guys for tuning in. I always love doing these. I was looking forward to this all day, hoping that it was clear enough. It's, you know, kind of, it can be a triggering topic. Like I said, that was the first time as a new doc I got written up in the Richmond Review, letter to the editor. But now I was like, oh, that was a good thing. Usually, it's very hard for me to take at first, but it's a good thing. Because if you're triggered, look into it. Look into why you're triggered, and is it shattering something that you thought about the sun, and are you open to a new possible belief? So that's what I'll always say. Always look at the physiology. And when there's money to be made, sniff it out. Why? We can make vitamin D, we can make melatonin. Why do we need to supplement it? Thank you, everyone. This is always fun for me, and I hope everyone has a safe, great weekend. And stay tuned for the newsletter where I'll post those natural sunscreen brands. And if anyone would like them, we'll do a special order for you guys. I think I would like one too, actually. So we'll do a special order. Just let us know. Let Annette know or Rav know at Brio. Thanks, everyone. Share with your friends if you like. Have a great weekend. Bye.